Hello and welcome to Tobysblogs, and today in this video I'm going to be counting down my top 10 horror films. So this is horror films that are my personal taste and my personal list. There's lots of horror films out there that I haven't watched and lots of horror films out there that I'm not interested in watching. So this is my personal list of what I really like. And the horror films that I really like are things like to do with the paranormal, to do with paganism, the satanic. So these are sort of films that are going to be on my list. Also sci-fi as well. I love sci-fi. And so films like slasher films or things where people are modern horror films, people are getting stabbed and slashed, they're not going to be on my list. Films like Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween, these sort of things are not going to be on my list. Or films that are to do with like zombies and things like this, is not really my sort of thing, like Walking Dead and that sort of thing. Like, that's not really my thing. So here are my top 10 lists, and this is my personal tastes. In at number 10 is The Omen. So I just bought this DVD box set on a whim, and I thought, well, I'll give it a try. It looked quite interesting, and I really enjoyed it. And then I watched all the other Omen films, and I love how they progress throughout his life. So we start with Omen 1, and then we have him as an older child and then an adult, and I love how it progresses through the story, and it's really interesting to watch. And in that regard, it's interesting to watch The Omen as well, because you know that he has to win at the end. Like, he can't die at the end, he has to win. And so you always know that it's kind of like an anti film that you normally have, where in the end the evil was killed and then blah, 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 everyone happy ever after. But no, in this one, that's not how it is. And I just love the plot of it, like the Antichrist is coming and this child is born of the devil, and he's going to take over the world, and it's just a really interesting premise, and I really loved it. There's some really interesting elements of the story as well, like where his maid goes up on the balcony and she goes, "This is all for you, Damien, I love you, Damien," and then she like kills herself, and like all these other people get killed in horrible ways, and it's really interesting as well. Patrick Troughton's in it, like the second Doctor, so I really like that bit, and especially the bit at the end where he kind of gets harpooned in the graveyard, which is that's really cool as well. David Warner is always in it, and he's really good in it as well. Harvey Spencer playing Damien, and he's really good, the child actor as well. So shout out to Billy Honor Whitelaw, who played Mrs. Baylock. She was really good. She was like Damien's kind of protector, and you didn't really know that until it kind of got to that point, and then she's like, rah, she jumps on you and attacks you and everything. It's really interesting. She's a really good actress, and I really loved her performance in this film. She was amazing. Loved it. So that's The Omen. In at number 9 is the Poltergeist film. So I bought this as well in Computer Exchange, and I thought I'd give it a go, and I really enjoyed it. It had really good elements in it. The reason why I wanted to watch is because it had lots of Family Guy had quoted it and done it a few times, so I thought, wow, I wanted to watch this film, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really, really good film, really well made, had a really good plot. It was a bit creepy at times. I remember like the poltergeist coming down the stairs and all that element of like fantasy. I think this woman was not, I think it was different in my eyes when watching this, because it wasn't like a Conjuring film where it was like jump scare, jump scare. It wasn't like that. It was more like fantasy, and I kind of like that kind of fantasy element of the spin on like kind of a ghost tale. The person playing Carol Ann was amazing, Heather something, and the person playing Tangina, who's kind of the person who helps solve the case and kind of gets rid of the poltergeist, you know, kind of like the medium sort of person, played by Xander Ramberstein, and she was really good as well. I really loved her character, and it's also, when you go through the other films as well, they kind of weave these characters through, and it's really good. I really loved the premise of this film, and it was just a different spin on a classic poltergeist film, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. In at number 8 is one of my favourite Hammer films, and it's really, really good and really exciting and really thrilling, and it's a sci-fi one, and it is X the Unknown. Now this is kind of one that you might not have heard of. It was on like a special feature on the Quatermass 2 Blu-ray, I think, and it's a really, really good film. It was meant to be Quatermass-esque. Now, I absolutely adore Quatermass. I love Quatermass. It is a really, really good franchise. The TV series is really good. The films are really good. I just love and adore Quatermass. So this was meant to be a Quatermass-esque sort of... This was meant to be a Quatermass story, but Quatermass is not in it. Instead, it was Dr. Adam Royston was in it instead of Quatermass, played by Dean Jagger, and he's really good in the film as a kind of Quatermass replacement. And it's a really good film. It's about this kind of radioactive monster that comes out of this crack in the earth, and it comes out and it stalks the countryside and kills people with radiation, and it's attracted to radiation. And there's these really, really good scenes where it kind of attacks a hospital, the radioactive material in the hospital, and this woman screams and this man gets melted, and it's like really good scenes in that. Or the scenes towards the end of the film where this blob is kind of going through the village and it's screaming, everyone's screaming and everything, and this blob's... It's really, really good, interesting plot. And it's one of those stories where you've got this kind of impossible monster that's hard to kill, and they've got to try and work out how to kill it. So that was X the Unknown, really good film. It's also got Fraser Hines in it, who was in Doctor Who, playing Ian Osborn. That's kind of one of his earliest roles in his acting career, and he's really good in it as well. In at number 7 is more of a paganism, satanic film, but it's an absolute classic, and it is The Wicker Man. Now, when I first watched The Wicker Man, I thought this film was absolutely horrific. It had amazing pagan elements in it, which I really loved. I loved the story, the paganism of it, the music. I loved all these elements of the story, but the ending, oh my god, it was so horrific. I thought, I cannot watch this film again. It is awful. But then I bought it on the 4K special edition, and I watched the special edition version of it, and then my views kind of changed towards it. So the actor Edward Woodward, who plays Sergeant Howie, and I felt, the first time I watched it, I felt sorry for him. Second time watching it around, watching the special edition, I just felt he was a bit of a dick. He was a bit of a dick, and I thought, well, he kind of deserves getting killed because he's so uprighteous and pompous, and he treats people really horribly. And I thought, well, he kind of deserves to be put in the Wicker Man, doesn't he, really? Like he had a chance to, with Ingrid Pitt's character, to kind of... it's Ingrid Pitt's character who try to seduce him, and if he actually had sex with her, then he might not have been killed in the Wicker Man. So I feel like his pompous things, like if he just embraced the paganism of it, then he might not have got killed. But yeah, it's a really good film. The music is amazing. It's got Christopher Lee in it. I love Christopher Lee. Anything with Christopher Lee, and I love it. Christopher Lee's amazing in it. It had an amazing score by Paul Giovanni, and the music is really good, and it kind of weaves it through. Like, I love a musical, I love a horror film. Combine the two together, we get The Wicker Man. And there's 3 elements that I love: is musicals, paganism, and horror films. So those 3 combined to make a really, really good horror film, and I love it. The Wicker Man. Now at number 6 we have a combined of the whole universe, because I feel like with this film that it has so many good films in the franchise that I just could not pick one, and that is The Conjuring universe. The Conjuring universe is such an amazing film. Like, I watched it and I thought, oh, this is going to be a bit horrible, and I bought the whole Blu-ray set and I watched all of them and I loved them. Yes, it has lots of jump scares and things like scary elements to it, but they're really, really good stories. So it follows the stories of like Ed and Lorraine Warren, played by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. And there's lots of really good, amazing things. So they're based on true stories, which is something that I really love. I love that they're based on true cases and true events. And my favourite of the Conjuring films, 1, 2 and 3, is the second one, when we go through the Enfield haunting case. That's a really good film. Also, the other good films in the franchise, The Nun is an amazing. I love the Nun films, 1 and 2. And we have Annabelle, of course, the creepy Annabelle doll, and I love her, how she's in all the Conjuring films as well, and then she gets her own franchise. I personally didn't think Annabelle films are very creepy until we got to the Origins one, and my god, that was fucking creepy. That was so scary, especially like there's this scene in the Annabelle Origins film where you're on the bunk bed, and like I sleep on a bunk bed. I've always slept in a bunk bed, and then there's this kind of where you're kind of looking down, and like Annabelle's like walking or something, and she's like on the bottom bunk or something, and you're peering over the edge, and it's like that to me was, oh, that is fucking scary, like that was, oh, I didn't like that. But the Conjuring universe is such an amazing universe, and I'm so looking forward to the new Conjuring film that is coming, the last Conjuring film in the franchise, and that's going to be really exciting to watch. So yes, looking forward to that when it comes out. And I can finally watch in the cinema, because I've never watched a Conjuring film in the cinema, because I watched them all on the Blu-ray set, so it'd be good to watch a Conjuring film in the cinema. In at number 5 is a Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee epic, and it is The Horror Express. Now, I'm a massive fan of Peter Cushing. I love Peter Cushing films, and most of the horror films I've watched have got Peter Cushing in it, or I would watch them because they've got Peter Cushing in it. And I think Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee make an amazing combination together, and I absolutely love them in this film. As they go on the Trans-Siberian Express, they're travelling along in this, it's kind of like the Orient Express, Agatha Christie kind of murder like setting, but on the Trans-Siberian Express, where Christopher Lee, my character, has found this creature in the ice, this prehistoric creature, and is taking him back to London, I suppose, and it starts melting and coming alive, and then killing people on the train, and then taking pieces of itself to recreate itself, I think. And it's a really good story, really creepy, and it's really, oh, it's lovely. I love it. Horror Express, good film. In at number 4 is another paganism epic, and it's kind of like Hammer Horror's only kind of really true paganistic satanic film, and it is The Devil Rides Out. Now this is a very, very classic of Hammer Horror films. Everyone kind of loves The Devil Rides Out, and I think it's a really good film. It brings lots of paganism elements into this film. We have the satanic, like the goat of Mendes appears, and like Christopher Lee playing a good guy in this one, kind of like throws something at it and it goes bang, and there's lots of fantastic special effects as well, where the Horseman of the Apocalypse comes in, like giant spiders, and they've got to protect themselves from the satanic. And it's kind of like we have Charles Gray's character in this. Charles Gray, amazing actor in this. He's trying to corrupt 2 young people to bring them into their coven, this satanic coven, and Christopher Lee's got to try and stop his friend from going into the path of the satanic and the paganism. And it's just an amazing film, The Devil Rides Out. I love it. And that is in at number 4. And at number 3 we have an amazing film, The Island of Terror. Now, I was watching some reviews about The Island of Terror, and people just didn't like it or say it was a crappy film or whatever. I love The Island of Terror. It's like one of my favourite kind of sci-fi monster alien kind of film to go to, and I really love it. It's about an island where they're trying to get a cure for cancer, and they're trying to find a cure for cancer, and they're putting all these chemicals together, and they create these characters, the silicates, and these are kind of like what do you call it, like tortoisey kind of creatures with like appendices, and they suck the bone marrow out of you, and you become like a floppy mess, and they suck everything out of you. And they're going across the island. They've escaped. They've killed everyone on the base, and now they're going around the island killing all the villagers, and they keep multiplying and multiplying, and they can't be destroyed. And this is where Peter Cushing comes in. We have Ed Judd and Peter Cushing coming in, trying to solve the case, trying to solve how they can destroy these silicates, because you can put fire at them, try and destroy them, and they just won't die. And I love this element of it, kind of on this island. It's a brilliant setting on this deserted island in Scotland, I think, and these silicates are like draining everyone, they're killing everyone. Lots of action sequences as well, and it's like this villain that you can't destroy, and it's hard to destroy, and you just feel like your hopelessness because you're stuck on this island and you can't escape, and these things are going to kill you, and they keep multiplying, and eventually they do destroy them. But it's like really touch and go at the end, and I think it's an amazing film. I love The Island of Terror. It's got Peter Cushing in it, and aliens, and people sucking things out. Well, they're not aliens, but you know, that you get that kind of feel for it. But the Island of Terror, I absolutely love it. So in at number 2 is Quatermass 2. I had to pick a Quatermass. I find Quatermass more of a sci-fi film than a horror film, but it is under the Hammer Horror banner, so I kind of feel, and it does have horror elements of it. And Professor Quatermass is working on the rocket project, and these kind of meteorites are coming down keep coming down in this area of Winnenden Flats. Winnenden Flats used to be like a little seaside town or something like that, and then it was demolished and the military moved in. And then Quatermass discovers that the moon base that he had planned, he finds it there at Winnenden Flats, and the government had stolen it for this purpose. And these meteorites are coming down with little aliens in it, and they burst out and they attach themselves inside your skin and control you. And then all these, like the parliament and everyone, is controlled by these alien creatures, and Quatermass has to try and stop these creatures. And it kind of accumulates at the end where they're trapped in this in the factory, in this base, and these aliens are trying to kill them. Controlled humans are trying to destroy them, to get them out, and they're holding out on the base and they're firing out, and it's really good, the kind of element. And then they destroy one of the domes, and boom, and this massive creature kind of moves around. Like, it's good. I love Quatermass 2. It's the best Quatermass. Quatermass in the Pit is really good, the TV version, not the film. But you know, I love Quatermass. It's amazing. Brian Donavy playing Quatermass, and it's really good because unfortunately the TV series of Quatermass, not many episodes exist. Quatermass 2 does exist, but it's very poor quality, so it's good to have these films to bring the Quatermass back to life on the big screen. And I think I love Quatermass 2. It's one of my favourites. So now we're going to go into a few honourable mentions, films that I really do like, but I feel like they didn't really make my top 10. But here are some honourable mentions. Honourable mentions include Waxwork. Waxwork with David Warner is kind of where they attract the guy from Gremlins, Zach something, into the waxwork. And once they step into the waxwork, they become part of the world, and then the waxwork kills them in their own little world. You have to watch the film anyway. And then they become a permanent exhibit, and at the end they've got to fight off David Warner and his creatures, because they've got to get a certain amount before they can be free or something like that. And it's a really good good film. Plague of the Zombies, you know, like the first ever kind of zombie film. This is Hammer Horror's zombie film. It's got a bit of satanic in there, a bit of paganism mixed in with zombies, and that's a really good film. Brides of Dracula. The Dracula films are really good, but the ones that I really liked was The Bride of Dracula, because it had a different twist. It wasn't actually Dracula, it was another person, and the setting is much better, and that's a film that I really liked. All the Frankenstein films, of course. Peter Cushing as Frankenstein, the Hammer Horror films. The Hammer Horror Peter Cushing Frankenstein films are really good. I really enjoyed watching those. Pride and Prejudice with zombies is a good romp. It's a good modern film I like. The Twins of Evil is another good film. Peter Cushing fighting off vampires again, and that's a really good film. So, without further ado, what is my number 1 horror film? My number 1 horror film is Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. Now, this is a really good, epic Frankenstein film. This is my favourite Frankenstein film out of the Hammer Horror series. It has lots of amazing elements to it. We have an asylum. It's set in a mental asylum, and Frankenstein is using all these mental asylum patients to construct this monster. And I feel Peter Cushing is amazing in it. And we have Shane Bryant playing Simon in this, who's kind of the assistant to Frankenstein. We have Madeline Smith playing Sarah in this. We have John Stratton, who was in Doctor Who as well, playing the governor. He's amazing in this, an iconic voice. And there's just so many good actors in it, and the setting is amazing. And Peter Cushing is on point here with his Frankenstein. It's the last of the Frankenstein films, and I just feel like he was on point in this film. It's a film I love watching. I love watching again and again. The setting is amazing. set in asylum, and the film was just incredible. I love it. So that's my number one. One I personally like was my favourite film. So I thought, so that is my top 10 horror films. But I want to do quickly my top 10 sci-fi horror films, because I feel that was a different genre of horror, and I really love sci-fi. So here was my top 5 sci-fi horror films. And number 5 was X the Unknown, for reasons that I've said before. Island of Terror, amazing film. Number 3 is one that I absolutely adore. Wouldn't really class it as horror, but it does have horror elements of it, and it's more fantasy. But Gremlins, I love Gremlins, the Mogwai, the Gremlins, the whole setting of Gremlins. I just love Gremlins, Gremlins 2. I'm obsessed. Number 2 of my sci-fi list would be Quatermass 2, for the reasons I said. Outstanding film. And number 1 is one that I haven't mentioned before, which is The Village of the Damned. Village of the Damned, based on The Midwich Cuckoo by John Wyndham, and it is an amazing story. The Midwich Cuckoo I love. I've watched the TV series of that as well, and it's just an amazing premise where the whole village just goes dark. They all collapse, and then all the women are impregnated with these new aliens, and the alien children go around with psychic, with powers and stuff. And it's an amazing film. I love The Village of the Damned. It's an amazing film. The original version, the black and white version, not the modern version. I mean the original black and white version. Midwich Cuckoo is an amazing story. I love it, and I love the sequel as well. The sequel is amazing as well. So that's my top 10 horror films. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I probably spent ages editing it, so I hope you've enjoyed it. If you liked it, comment down below. Blessed be, and I will see you soon.